Welcome to the Waves of Joy podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm a mindset empowerment coach and an energy healer. This podcast is about finding joy. It will also be about inspiring people who have built joy-filled lives. You'll hear more about how to find joy through the day, the weeks, the months, and years of your life, and learn about how to spread joy. You'll also hear powerful stories that don't sound joyful at the beginning, but where joy was found. I started this podcast because I wanted to normalize finding joy in the ups and downs of daily life. I hope you feel inspired and entertained. Pop in your earbuds, take me with you on your commute, or both. Let's do this. Find waves of joy. Would you like to feel better and release limiting beliefs? Of course you would. I created a free meditation for you that's downloadable. As soon as you click submit, I'll email you with a downloadable version of this free meditation. Go to brendawinkle.com/feel better. Welcome back to the Waves of Joy podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. I'm so excited about today's episode because my friend Jessie Armstrong is joining us. Have you ever heard of Web3, NFTs, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and wondered, what the heck is that? If you have been wondering, you are in for a treat. And if you don't know what NFTs, blockchain, Web3, cryptocurrency mean, this episode is absolutely for you. And if you're already familiar with Web3, blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, you are going to love Jessie. She is so knowledgeable and so fired up about making sure that we understand how to get involved and why it matters. But before we dive into this episode, if you haven't heard, I am giving away a free coaching or theta healing session to someone each week who leaves a review on the Waves of Joy podcast on Apple Podcasts. And this week, Benny U007 is our winner. The review says, "Great show. I love hearing from your guests. I'm all about living the life we want. I feel like I can tap into that mindfulness, hearing stories that remind us about finding joy in all situations. Thanks, Brenda. You're such an inspiration and a guide." Thank you for leaving this review on the Waves of Joy podcast, Benny U007. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at Brenda Winkle or email me at brendawinkle.com, and I will send you a link so you can schedule your free session. Thank you so much for leaving that review. And I look forward to next podcast's winner. So be sure you're leaving a rating and review for the Waves of Joy podcast. Now let's dive into today's episode with my friend, Jessie. Hey, Jessie, thank you for joining me on Waves of Joy.
I am so excited. I have to admit, this is my first podcast ever as a guest.
Oh, well, congratulations and welcome. I'm so glad to have you on mine.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Of course, of course. So you and I were roommates at the retreat in Boca Raton, and that's how we met.
We were. Yeah. It's crazy that we were in that program together. And, I guess what was it, 6 months? And, for 6 months, we didn't know each other until this really amazing opportunity came up. So it's funny how you can just be so close to someone, but so far away still.
Yeah. It was just an immediate connection. And so glad to have met you.
It was so nice. It was really nice to have been able to connect with you and to share that experience, because it ended up being kind of an interesting time for me, at least trying to get home because of flights and crazy travel situations. We actually ended up sharing another evening together
That's
because you were luckily
right.
staying in. So I got to we got to bunk again because my flight got delayed.
That was fun. It was just nice to have that sort of day to decompress a little bit. Maybe decompress is the wrong word,
Mhm.
but to absorb all of the things from the retreat. I appreciated that day.
Process, yeah, yeah, the processing day. And I feel like sometimes I'm still processing, always processing.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack because it was so incredible, so impactful.
It was amazing. It was awesome. I have to say, it was one of the it was crazy to say, but probably one of the best experiences that I've had in a really long time. As far as being able to connect with other women who are kind of in the same like headspace, if that makes sense. I just
Mhm.
feel like it's hard to find friends and other people that kind of share your same ambition and like not necessarily like the same exact goal, but like just understand kind of the journey that you're on and kind of where you're trying to go. So I just really appreciated being able to more intimately connect with people and for it to be in real life because for so long we've all been virtual and that's been nice to connect with people I wouldn't nor like ordinarily connect with, but there's definitely something to be said for being in person. So it was fabulous. I loved it.
Me too. So I just loved you and your energy and everything that you brought and the way you look at things. And you taught me a ton about NFTs and so many other things that I'd kind of heard of, but didn't really know much about.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
tell me more because I'm going to assume that some of our listeners probably have heard of cryptocurrency and NFTs, but I know that you know so much. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's all good. So yeah, I have to say it's been kind of a unique journey, just like my even finding out about NFTs and blockchain and Web3, which is kind of just this broader concept of the next like phase of the internet, is the way that I've heard it kind of talked about a lot. And so if I can take a step back and maybe just tell a little bit of my journey, how I got to even know and figure out or learn about what NFTs and blockchain and Web3 are. Um, it was two years ago. I was working corporate job, had been in the job for a long time, and as a lot of other companies probably went through, ours was had to, do some headcount reductions. And unfortunately, my role was kind of caught up in all that. And so uh, it was like a weird time just because it was, COVID and, everything was remote and so uncertain. And there I was, I just kind of lost my identity as a working woman and I had been, employed since college. And so it was just this weird in between time. And I was also about to have my first child, which was also just another like layer of complexity and just like craziness. And so it was actually the springboard into this journey of self-discovery that I've been on for the past couple years. And it's been going through taking like personality tests and just better understanding myself and trying out things and really like figuring out what I like and what I don't like because for so long I feel like I was just my identity was my job and my work, and when that was gone it was very scary because I was like I don't even really know what I like. I don't even know what I want to do next, like what are even the possibilities because all I've known is this particular job or even just jobs in general, that I don't necessarily like, but are, put a, paycheck,
mhm.
solid paycheck in the bank. And so this whole concept of like doing something that I loved or enjoyed was so foreign because it was like for so long I believed, oh, you go to college and you get the good job and you work and you make money and you buy the house, and that's, that's the dream, right? That was what it was for me growing up. And then I kind of finally got to that point. I was like, wow, it's not like what I thought it was going to be. I feel like there's more to there's more to life. There's something I'm missing. So kind of to go back to, where I was. So just kind of trying different things, and started getting into some coaching programs to just help kind of facilitate this self-discovery. And it was, I guess, um, I'm not sure when exactly, but I rediscovered this love of drawing that I had as a kid. I always really enjoyed art and just creating, painting, drawing, all those kind of good things. So I started just drawing. At first, it was just markers and paper and pens. And then eventually I learned, or kind of taught myself through YouTube, how to draw digitally on my laptop, and just started almost sometimes like recreating stuff that I had drawn, on paper on my laptop, and then just became some other things. And so that was really fun. And I liked that. And I had some cool opportunities. And so through that, I created some infographics for a coach that I worked with. I created stickers that I sold to friends in
Mhm.
Kathy's program, and just even some other people that I know. And those stickers they were really fun because they just were things that I drew that I liked, and I put some meaningful sayings with them, and they just turned out to be these really cool, you know, positive reminders for, whether it's your water bottle or your journal or whatever. Like, you could just put it somewhere and it could just remind you of that thing you need to hear when you need to hear it. And so I just had a lot of fun with that. And so I'm doing this, and I'm posting a lot of stuff on Instagram, like a lot of my drawings on Instagram. And my dad, of all people, is like, you should look into NFTs. And I think this was probably towards the end, um, like late 2021. And so, as we all probably do, or a lot of us, we kind of just shrug it off, right? It's like, oh, Dad, what are you talking? Like, what is this? I don't even know. I've never heard of this. And so I just kind of brushed it off and didn't really think anything of it until I feel like it was later at some point in Kathy's program. I think it was Made for Millions, when she had, um, I don't know if it was when she had Britt Morin on. Britt Morin is one of the co-founders of BFF, which is Blockchain Friends Forever. It's a business that helps onboard women and non-binary people into Web3 and help them understand this whole world of NFTs and blockchain and cryptocurrencies and things like that. I think she just mentioned like NFTs, and then I just connected the dots. I was like, oh, Britt Morin, she's that co-founder. And so I went and found, I think she was on her podcast. I went to find that podcast episode and I listened to it. And so it was just kind of it just kept coming up. And so I was like, okay, I feel like I should start really like kind of researching this and learning about it, because I feel like for it to come up as much as it did in my life, it wasn't something that I should ignore. And I feel like a lot of people could probably say that about something
Mhm.
um, in their life, right? Like these just signs or um, mentions of something just on all the places, right? That's when it kind of like my journey into, or down the rabbit hole, so they say, into Web3 started. Was I connected with the BFF group, uh, went to their website, signed up to get, just notifications. They have a Discord, and Discord is actually a social platform that's been historically used by gamers, but a lot of NFT communities have adopted it as their platform for, organizing, communicating, and engaging with each other. So I joined their Discord, just kind of was lurking around and just observing and seeing what people are talking about, and looking at the resources they had available. They have a lot of amazing educational resources, just to kind of, basically like the 101 stuff, right? Because a lot of the terminology is it's very new. It's not stuff that you hear a lot about. And that's where it started. And then I just kept kind of popping into communities and just learning a little bit more. And my initially my intent was like, oh, I want to create my own NFT, like sell my art as NFTs. And I kind of look back at that and kind of chuckle to myself because I was so naive and like my understanding of what that even meant and all of the like technical aspects of what goes on behind the scenes of creating and selling an NFT. So I kind of laugh at myself, but that desire to sell quickly turned into a desire to like build community because I just saw how tight the community in this Web3 space is. And one of the other things I did was I resurrected a Twitter account that I had probably, I don't know, way back in maybe, I don't know, probably 2010, 2012, something like that. Um, and because what they call it crypto Twitter, and so a lot of folks in into NFTs and Web3 and blockchain are on Twitter. And so that's a really great place to learn as well. You just start following, you follow a few people here and there, and then you see who they're following, and then your feed is just curated with all this really interesting, cool information. And so that's a really kind of long, the long and short of my journey from how I kind of got to even learn about and start like cultivating that curiosity for this space.
This is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. A few things stood out to me. One was your identity as a working woman being really tied to a job or a title. And I love that your journey of self-discovery took you into a place where you could be comfortable letting that identity go to allow yourself to explore. That is just,
Hmm.
it's so cool because that is what gets a lot of people stuck is they're so tied to an identity that it feels almost impossible to let that go and actually follow the curiosity. And that's what you did. It's so amazing. And when you said you were a little disillusioned with the idea that we all grew up with in, the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s of go to college, get the good job. And then getting there and realizing, wait a minute, what what is this all for? And one of the things that stood out to me in your story is again and again and again, you have just figured things out. I mean, you learned to draw on your laptop by watching YouTube videos? Who does that? That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And you know what? That interview with Britt on Kathy's program, I was on that same call. And the idea that it lit you up and lit this fire in you to go explore and join the BFF group that she has and then just go down the rabbit hole, as you say, is amazing and so cool and a real life example of all of us have these gifts that really speak to us and that two people can be sitting in the same space receiving the same information and one person is like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, I want to learn more, and the other person is, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, I'm jumping in, this is amazing. And that's you. It's just inspiring.
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, I feel like it highlights it's interesting, and I think it is worth the pausing and reflecting on the journey because I just started this in March of this year. It is now September, which is crazy in and of itself, but I haven't really been in this, relatively speaking, it's all still really new. And honestly, the space is just new to everyone in general because it keeps evolving and there are no experts. And so it is just this constant learning and evolving and figuring things out. And it is just, it's cool because it's not a space where you kind of do things on your own or in a vacuum. Like you really do have to connect with people, uh, and create. It's like you're creating with people. And I really like that because um, there's just so many people from so many different walks of life with so many different experiences that, I haven't had or could never have just by virtue of being who I am and living where I am. And all, we're all just so unique. And so it's really cool, just some of the people I've met and stories I've heard of other people, and just how they're trying to make a difference in the world through, this really cool technology, which by the way is not, blockchain is not new. It has actually been around since the 70s, which I didn't know until relatively recently. I thought it was brand new and just something that's kind of sparked kind of this explosion of um, you know, cryptocurrencies and NFTs and things like that. But it's been around for a really long time, and I think it was really the Bitcoin cryptocurrency that kind of brought Bitcoin to the forefront, and that's kind of was what kicked off this this new wave of innovation, so to speak. So it's cool. And I've always been a very curious person and fairly resourceful. Like I'm not afraid to kind of go and ask questions and figure things out on my own. And so it lends, the space lends itself really well to people who who are that kind of way.
That's amazing. So, for somebody who wants to get started and is curious, but feels overwhelmed by the terminology like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, NFTs, blockchains, where would you say to start?
Yeah, it's an amazing question because what I've learned in my experience is you know, there are so many different ways that you can get started. I think, um, you could go the kind of the same I did. I mean, BFF, there are so many communities that have resources for like ground level zero newbies just because the space is so new, right? Like there are not that many people, relatively speaking. They say the people that are there are still early because it's not really at this, it's not mass adoption yet. So
Mhm.
it's still really new and unfamiliar to a majority of people, I would say. And so, I would say my BFF is a great place to start. They have a lot of really solid resources for, beginners. And I don't have specific names right now, but I would also say if you don't have Twitter and you can manage another social um, platform, I would say setting up a Twitter account and following people who are in the space is really, I think, I don't know what the right word is, but I think it could be easily overlooked as a resource. But there are just so many people in the space who are sharing their ideas and thoughts and information for free for anyone to learn from. And it's just such a generous space. So I'd say that. And even LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a very um, active community of people who are participating in Web3 and blockchain and NFTs. And so I would say, if you have a preference between Twitter and LinkedIn, uh, I feel like Twitter is more real time and LinkedIn is kind of like more, I'd say more curated, kind of after the fact, like news comes out and people kind of
Oh,
bring it
okay.
up and talk about it. So it really is kind of could be your preference as to whether, if you have LinkedIn and you want to kind of go there, and I'm happy to share, um, after this, I could, share just some people that I follow that I think are really, um, really solid and share a lot of really helpful information from a beginner's point of view.
That would be great. And then maybe people can join your email list and get that list from you of people to follow.
Yeah, yeah, I think, and it's something that I hadn't pulled even really, because I just, obviously I'm just like keeping it's in my profile, so I don't have like like a list off of that sits offside of Twitter. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea and could really be helpful for people just to like get started. Like, here's a quick, um, you know, reference, like 3 things you can do to kind of start educating yourself on, Web3, NFTs, blockchain, that kind of thing. And
I
then
love
from
that.
there, it's like you kind of, I think regardless of whether you decide you want to invest in cryptocurrencies or if you want to invest or purchase NFTs or you want to become a blockchain developer or whatever the case is, like even if you decide that's not anything that you want to do, having a general understanding of this stuff is important because it is very quickly making its way into mainstream. Like there's a lot of really big brands that are getting into this space. For example, Starbucks they made an announcement, I think it was either July or early August, that they're getting into um, Web3 NFTs. And so they haven't really talked about what that looks like, but to like for Starbucks, such a big brand, big global brand, to say that they're getting in is like, I think a big signal that none of this is going away. And
Mhm.
it just would be better to have at least a foundational understanding now versus like stuff just kind of happening and being uh, lost when it's something that, you have to kind of understand as part of life. Because
Right.
I think it will become part of um, the day to day in a lot of different ways.
I think so too. In fact, a lot of the financial experts, for example, Susie Orman, says that her prediction is this will become the main source of how we trade um, eventually. Eventually. So I think
Hmm.
that there's
Hmm.
definitely a case to be made for getting educated. One of the things that you said a little bit earlier was that you were naive about thinking that you could sell your art as NFTs. And that was actually my first thought. I was like, oh, I wonder what I could sell as an NFT. Can you
Hmm.
help someone understand me? That someone is me, or any of our listeners. What is an NFT?
So an NFT NFT stands for non-fungible token, and it basically represents a digital asset that is unique and can't be, exchanged equally with something else. So a helpful way to kind of understand it is to think of something that's fungible. Um, and so that would be like, think of a dollar bill. If you have $1 bill and you exchange it for another dollar bill, it's the same value. So it doesn't matter like which one you have, you can use it in the same way. Like, so that would be something that's fungible. Something that's non-fungible might be um, one example I heard that was really unique is think of your cell phone. And if someone took your cell phone and exchanged it with their cell phone, that wouldn't be, even if they were both like iPhone 13s or whatever number, I don't even know where we are with the iPhones these days, but even if it was the same like model, it would not hold the same value to you because you have pictures and apps and all of your, personal information, right? So like there's an intrinsic value to you with your cell phone compared to somebody else's. And
Mm.
so that's kind of the difference, is something that's non-fungible is something that just it can't be exchanged. It's unique. It's one of a kind, so to speak.
Okay, that is a great explanation. And then cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, are they this? Are they the same? Are they different?
So they're all tokens. Um, Bitcoin is a type of cryptocurrency. So there are many different kinds of cryptocurrencies. Um, Cryptocurrency is basically it's a digital currency. Um, it lives on the blockchain, and like I said, there's many different kinds. And I will admit, cryptocurrencies is one area that I have not uh, dug very deep into, at least at this point in my journey and education and learning about this space. But I am actually starting a program, excuse me, in September through a group called SheFi, and they help educate women and non-binary people on like decentralized finance and cryptocurrency, like, so kind of these areas of the space that I haven't dabbled in or that I even understand at this point. So I'm trying to like close this education gap. But yeah, so Bitcoin is just a type of cryptocurrency.
Okay, that is super helpful. And then you said something about the blockchain. Can you
Mhm.
help me understand what's blockchain?
Yeah, so blockchain is it's a form of distributed ledger technology, which basically means that the information is decentralized. So when you think of like Google or Apple or like these big corporations, they're all centralized, right? So they control all the information.
Hmm.
Whereas on a blockchain, it's all distributed. So there's many different computers basically in a network that are maintaining the information. So everyone has the same copy of all the information. And what's good about that is if one of those computers goes down, it doesn't matter. All the like the network is still available, like the information is still available because there are so many other computers that are maintaining the information versus if Google's servers go down, we're all kind of screwed because there's only one and that's where all of our information is. So it's a form of distributed ledger technology that transparently stores transactions that are immutable, which means they can't be changed, and they're tamper evident, which means you can easily tell if someone's trying to like mess with the data or the information. And all of that, it starts to get kind of technical, but it's all kind of made possible by the use of cryptography, which is the science of like being able to kind of send and share information in a way that is secure and private. So a lot of jargon in that definition, but I'm happy to clarify, happy to
Oh, no,
clarify
that
anything
was
in
so
that.
helpful. So then one more question that I have is what does well, let's just give me a qualifying statement here. It might be one more, but it might just be one more about this topic. um,
Yeah.
so Web3 is what they're saying is the new web. We're currently in Web 2, moving into Web 3. And I know that that's what we're saying. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So in my like learning about this, the way that I've heard it described is by kind of going back to Web 1. And so Web 1 was like early 90s, and they call that the um, kind of the right era, WRITE. So that was where people, and actually that form of the internet was also decentralized. So people could, post some content. You could go to that web page and read it. So it was really more for like reference and being able to like access information. Where we started moving into Web 2, you start getting blogs, and this is where social media starts to kind of come into the picture and the information starts to become more centralized. So now you have these big companies. Well, it's taking a step back. Web 2 is read and write. So people can still like post content, but now people can actually engage with it. So you can comment, you can like, you can, do all the things. And going back to what I was saying earlier, now is where you start seeing these big like companies kind of centrally owning all the information. So you think about a Facebook or Instagram, any of the big social media platforms, they own all of the content on those platforms. So it's um, really hard for people to, and it's a big trade-off, right? It's like, oh, great, we get to use these awesome social media platforms for free, but in exchange, we're giving up our right to basically own the content that we post. And so that's kind of where we start getting into, I think the idea in Web3 is that you'll still be able to read content and so basically access information. You'll still be able to write content. So you'll be able to create videos and blogs and, web pages and all that good stuff. But then kind of the next piece of that is to reclaiming ownership of our
Mm-hmm.
data, the
Mm-hmm.
content that we create, by moving back to a more decentralized structure of the internet. So moving away from these big centralized platforms to more decentralized platforms.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't quite understand it, listen again and again and again, because I've asked Jessie to explain this to me at least 3 times, maybe 4. And this time I feel like I got it. I feel like I really get it. So thank you, Jessie.
It, it does take time. And I feel like I can't remember where I said this or if I was writing, oh, think I was writing something and it was one of the points that I made at the end of it. I said, if it's okay if it doesn't make sense, especially if this is the very first time that you're hearing about it. And just like Brenda said, re-listen to it, go, whatever your like preferred method of learning, so if it's not listening, if you like to read, um, there's so much stuff out there. And again, like happy to share some resources to help anybody who's interested in learning about this a little bit more.
I love that. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your knowledge. Where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter, and I'm also on Instagram. Not as active these days on Instagram, but Instagram and Twitter and at LinkedIn. So kind of those are kind of the main platforms that I'm on these days, and happy to share the links.
Awesome. And what is your handle on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn?
So I know on Twitter it's at jessielynn.eth, ETH. On Instagram, it's at jessielynn_eth, ETH. And honestly, for LinkedIn, I don't know. I always have to like copy the link to my profile. I don't know. I don't know I don't know if it's like an actual handle on LinkedIn. But that one I'm happy to share.
You know what's so funny? The
For
reason I'm
show notes,
laughing
I don't know.
is because I always have to look up my profile on LinkedIn too. I have no idea. Is it my first name and last name? Is it my business name? Is it something different? I just
Well, it's
never
like there's
remember.
probably 100 Jesse Armstrongs anyway, so it's like there's probably and there's like a bunch of numbers. So yes, I always have to copy the link for that one, but yeah, I'll make sure to share that in case anybody wants to connect
Okay,
there.
perfect. And then
But
I will
Twitter and Instagram are good.
awesome. And I'll have it in the show notes. And so that people can find you and then they can connect with you on one of those platforms. And you might be able to have that list for them of those 3 helpful things to educate yourself on NFTs. And
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah.
so
And
cool.
actually something that I'm planning is hosting so actually hosting kind of a what's called Wine, Women, and Wallets. And so it's basically kind of an evening where we get together and talk about a little bit more in depth, still pretty high level, but a little bit more in depth than what we talked about here of kind of Web3 and blockchain and NFTs and even so, and then at the end, there's an opportunity to even open up your own crypto wallet if you're in, like, if that's something you want to do to start exploring Web3 even more. Um, and I think and this isn't confirmed yet, but I'm hoping to be able to have a cool prize raffle for anyone who attends. And I think the target date for that is going to be September 29th. And so I'll make sure to share the details on my social profiles for anyone who's interested.
I love that. That sounds so fun. And wine, women, and wallets brings me back to something that you were telling me when we were together in Florida, which is that the percentage of women that are buying into cryptocurrencies and NFTs and blockchain is minute. We need more women
Hmm.
because women deserve to be a part of this.
Yes, and I would even take it a step further and just say we need more diverse representation in general in this space, especially diverse people in positions of like building and creating in this space. Because if we don't, then we're just going to perpetuate some of the social, challenges that we experience in Web 2.
Hmm.
And so it's just really, really important for us to, support women and support non-binary and support people of color and people who don't have access to, just or have the experiences that a lot of other people do, but may have amazing, you know, insights and experiences otherwise to bring and help us just create this next version of the internet and really of the world that is so needed and hopefully to not perpetuate some of the negativity that exists right now. So it's
Oh,
it's really important and just really really excited to talk to more people who are looking to learn more about Web3 and blockchain and NFTs, all of it.
this is amazing. And yes, I echo everything that you say. When we know that the people that are writing checks are making policy, and
Mm,
we don't feel like the policy is actually serving any of us anymore, the thing to do is to get more people writing checks. So
hmm.
we absolutely need diversity, and in every sense
Oh
involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. Thank you for
100%.
saying that. I was just having chills as you were saying this, thinking about we actually have the ability right now, because this is so new, to create the world that we really want to live in.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I think I'm excited to be a little bit farther along so that I can help other people um, navigate their way. And, I obviously I don't know everything, and I don't think there is anyone who knows everything because, like I said, the technology moves so fast and things are constantly changing. I mean, there's always like stuff in the news about regulations and, laws and things that are, you know, being kind of reviewed and the potential for, all the landscape to just change. Um, it's it moves really fast, but I think because I'm so interested and because I have such a passion for it, like I enjoy staying on top of things and so to be able to do that and help people, even if I'm just a couple steps ahead, if that's the role that I can play in the whole grand scheme of things, then I think that's I think that's awesome, and I'm happy to do that.
You are incredible and have such a generous heart. And I feel so fortunate to call you my friend. Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm like we were talking about earlier, just like so grateful that we were able to connect at the retreat in May, and it's really been kind of like the next springboard for me into all of this amazingness. And yeah, so yes, I'm so proud to be able to call you my friend as well. So that's really
Thank you.
sweet. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that retreat changed everything for me. I resigned from my teaching job last week. I'm listing my
That's
house
right.
next week. I mean, it is springboarding me into the next chapter.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Where do you know where you're moving yet, or
No.
up in the air? Just
I know that I rented a storage unit today so that I can give myself a little time and space to figure it out. I'm probably going to have a
Mhm.
home base really close to Portland because my daughter is planning to stay here.
Mhm.
But I also feel a little travel bug. So
I
maybe,
see you are traveling. I see you
uh-huh.
around and about.
Yeah, yeah. So I was kind of thinking that what I might do is just kind of float around for a few months or rent something and then float around for a few months or some combination of that and just give myself some space to explore.
That sounds really cool.
It sounds
And
fun.
so it seems so foreign to me right now because I have a 2-year-old. Well, he's almost 2. He'll be 2 on um next Tuesday actually. Um
Oh,
so I could not just I don't feel like I am at a place in my life where I could just pick up and do that right now, but I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I shouldn't put that can't in there. But it sounds awesome. Like I'm so happy for you and was super excited to hear that you were able to make that decision about your job and finally kind of go all in on your business, which is so awesome.
thank you. Thank you. I remember when my daughter was 2 and I I felt very much the way that you feel right now. Feeling like, okay, this is exactly where I want to be. I want to just soak up these moments and it feels like it's going fast. And so I love that for you. And happy birthday to your son next week.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're it's kind of hard to believe it's already been 2 years. But yeah, I think we're gonna keep it simple. I think we'll try to go. There's a children's museum here in Virginia near where we live, so we'll probably try to take him there and maybe have his cousins come along and then, do the cake and grandma got him some presents. So should be fun. And I think he's still a little young for like um I think we've got another year before he probably starts remembering, like really remembering. So maybe we'll go all out next year. But we always had simple, like when I was growing up, our stuff was always very simple and I liked it. I mean, just having family and keeping it keeping it nice with a good dinner and some gifts and a cake. That was enough for us. It was always nice to celebrate birthdays.
That's how we like to do it too. Cake and
Yeah.
time together. And that's the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's fun. We're excited. And like I said, I can't believe it's already September.
I
I have
know.
no idea where the year went
It's
or where it's
amazing.
going.
Right? I mean, there's 3 more months left. It could go a lot of places.
I know. I know. It's so, yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or because now I'm a mom. That time is just like, it just feels different now. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have 5 rapid fire questions and they may or may not be rapid answers, and that's okay.
Okay.
The first one is what is in your morning mug?
Coffee.
Mine too. Yep, all about
Always
the coffee.
coffee.
Love that. Is there a song that you love to listen to and every time you listen to it, you just feel good?
Oh, it's a Shakira song and I can't remember the name of it, which is crazy. And this is so me. Like, when you said there was going to be rapid fire questions, I was like, oh, I know she's going to ask me about like a song or a TV show. And I'm so bad at these questions because I'm like, I can never think of it. but it's from the movie Zootopia. So Shakira song from the movie Zootopia, if you Google it, like you'll find it. And it's just so catchy. And though if you really listen to the lyrics of it, it really hits. It hits for me. So I will say that one, even though I can't.
Try everything.
Yes, that's it. I was like, it's just right on the tip of my tongue in that moment, and you said it. Yeah, that's
Love
it.
that.
That's
Love
one
that.
of my good ones. Yeah.
That's so fun. Who inspires you?
Oh man, it's anyone who just pushes through anybody who like goes against the grain, I would say. Um, I think of people like, I mean, even you in, leaving your job and going to just really put your heart and soul into your business, and people like Kathy who, hearing about her story, and even, people like my mom who, I mean, she raised 8 kids. I'm the second oldest of 8 kids, like just pushing pushing through challenges and difficult situations, and um, the should do's, right? Like I think we all
Mm,
get in that caught in that trap. It's like, oh, I should just be have a stable job and get paid and be happy, right? Like I think a lot of times that's the trap that I get caught in. But why can't it be I want to do XYZ and that's what I'm going to do instead? Um,
mhm,
so I think it is a lot of like just conditioning in terms of what we were taught to believe about, you know, what success looks like, I guess, and what things make us happy, like would make us happy.
I
And I
love
just
that.
always go back to, yeah, I always go back to what we learned uh, in Abundant Ever After, which was that whole point about, and I think you just said it on one of your reels recently, was about, we don't have to wait for something or something to happen to feel a certain way. Like we can choose to feel how we want to feel now.
Mhm,
And so it's just finding the little ways to do that, whether it's that, cup of coffee in the morning, or sitting outside, meditating, watching a funny movie, or just going out with friends, or, whatever it is, like something small to feel the way you want to feel versus, oh, I need to, live in a $1 million house, or, do XYZ in order to, feel successful or happy. And half the time it's like it doesn't even you get there, you get that thing, and it's like, oh wait, no. And that was, I feel like, what happened to me when we graduated from college and got my job, and, you know, got the house and did all the things, and it was like, well, I feel like it's still like there's something that's still missing. And I feel
mhm,
like it's really been the purpose, um, like finding my purpose. And I know that can change, and it may or may not be like one thing, but right now I feel like the Web3 and learning about blockchain and helping other people navigate and find their way is, what it feels like I'm meant to be doing now. And so I can honestly say I feel like that's the first time in my life that I have felt this way about anything. And it's really cool and kind of scary and unknown. So I'm excited to kind of see where this goes. And just one thing that and you're right, this was not a rapid fire answer, but um, one of the realizations I had was like, this was such an unexpected like twist in my journey. Like when I started out on my self-discovery journey a couple of years ago, I was like, I never set out to be like, oh, I want to learn about Web3 and blockchain and NFTs. I didn't even know what it was. And so I think it's something, that I learned is just making space and being open to finding joy in places that you don't even know exist, and
mhm.
just following, I like to say, following the breadcrumbs, and just keeping an open mind about what it could lead to, and not uh like having such a tight grip on like your end state. Like it's good to have kind of a vision and direction, but I don't know, life just has a funny way of putting things in our path, um, that we don't. I mean, if we don't have our eyes open, we'll definitely miss them. Life will keep
Mhm.
putting it there until we see it, but um, I think it's just making sure that we're awake and paying attention to those little signs.
Yes, I love that. And just being willing to follow the curiosity when we're like, huh, that seems kind of cool. I want to know more about that.
Hmm. Well, it's funny because even in my story, I was like, oh, like when my dad told me to look into it, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. That sounds weird. And then it was like life just kept putting it in front of me, and I was like, okay, I get it. I'm gonna look into this. And 5 months later, 6 months later, here I am talking to
Mhm.
you on a podcast about it.
Right.
And I
And six
never
months
thought I'd be
ago,
doing this.
I didn't have a podcast 6 months ago.
Yeah. And here we are.
And here
It's
we
meant to
are.
be.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, is there a podcast that you love that you listen to?
So obviously, uh, Kathy's podcast is always a good go-to for me. I recently started listening to some about that were more um, related to kind of Web3 and blockchain and all kind of this space. One of them's called Decrypt. Um, and there's also, I guess, along those lines, there's also a ton of newsletters that I subscribe to, which are really nice because it's just like all this news and information that's curated. And so there's definitely some, and I can also share this as well. Like there's definitely some that I really like. There's one that's also kind of got it's kind of got a funny spin to it. They try to basically curate some news and they rewrite it in a way that's like, you know, ex plain English, less jargony, and it's really great, and so I like that one. But yeah, Decrypt and Kathy's podcast, and then um, I'm trying to think if there's anything that's like just for fun. I was listening to The Office Ladies a while ago, which is the one with Jenna Fisher and the woman who plays Angela. I can't think of her name, but they basically like recap all the episodes of The Office and talk about like all of the inside scoop. And I think they have some other actors, guests that come on and talk about certain scenes or experiences they had. And so that was a fun one too. That's one of my favorite shows. I don't know if that's one of the rapid fire questions, but my favorite show is The Office.
That would be a great rapid fire question, and I'll take it. I love that. I love it. So, my last question is when you need to flip the switch, like let's say you're having a hard day, feeling sad, mad, frustrated, what do you do to flip the switch and access joy?
Hmm. A couple so I feel like it depends. Sometimes it's different things. Like I have actually gone to like put on a song and dance. And so like that will help. I think meditation is always a good go-to. Just stopping to take a break. One of the ones that I like to do, probably the most often is just for me is to go sit outside in my backyard, um, and just be outside in the sun. Like sometimes, especially in the summertime, it can get a little, well, I shouldn't complain about this, but it gets a little cool in our house with the AC. And so I often like to just go sit outside, um, where it's warmer and just be in the sun and just be outside. I think
I
that's
love
one
that.
that always just helps. Like just feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin is really relaxing and calming, and it's it's nice when things are just a little out of whack. It's nice to bring like just for grounding, I guess would be a good way to explain it.
Mhm. I love that. And I love being outside too. I totally get that. Jessie, thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate you so much. Love you and am grateful for all the knowledge that you shared with us.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. And I just look forward to helping connect people with more resources and helping others understand what this Web3 space is all about. Because it's really interesting and it's really cool. And it has the potential to like just make our lives better and make a big impact in this world. So I'm excited. And thank you again for having me.
Oh, of course, you're so welcome. And you are getting ready to make a big impact in the world. So I'm so excited to
Oh,
watch you.
thank
And
you.
I hope that listeners, I hope that you reach out to Jessie because she would love to talk to you and help you out.
Absolutely.
Isn't Jessie awesome? Here are the takeaways. Number one, you don't have to wait for someone to show you. You can figure things out now. Number two, follow people who are sharing ideas and learn from them. Number three, it's worth learning about NFTs, blockchain, Web3, and crypto because it's becoming more mainstream. Number four, an NFT is a non fungible token or a unique asset that lives on the blockchain. It's uniquely valuable in the same way your personal cell phone is uniquely valuable to you, as opposed to an identical model of a phone belonging to someone else. Number five, crypto and Bitcoin are digital currencies that live on the blockchain. Number six, the blockchain is a form of decentralized information with many different computers monitoring the same information. The opposite of the blockchain would be centralized information, all stored in one place, such as Google. Number seven, Web3 is a more decentralized platform. Web 1 was in the early 1990s. It was a WRITE era and was decentralized. Web 2 is our current era and has been around since we started to have blogs and social media. It is a read and write era, and Web 3 is the future and current version. Number eight, the percentage of women being involved in these technologies is minute. Women and non binary people deserve to be a part of this. And number nine, we have the opportunity to create the world we want to live in. Speaking of creating the world we want to live in, the episode that was on the Waves of Joy podcast about 5 things to do when you're sad had more comments, more direct messages, and more emails than any other episode that I had ever created. And it made me realize how universal this experience is. And it gave me an idea of a way to help you. I created a free guide and cheat sheet so that you can feel better fast. All of your emotions are welcome, even the hard ones. But you don't want to stay in those tough feelings, right? And avoiding them means that they come out in less predictable ways. So, this free guide and cheat sheet to feel all your feelings and still feel good is the key. And you can get it by going to brendawinkle.com/feel better fast. All one word, all lowercase. Until next time, bye for now.